Hey everyone, I'm Phil Corey, and in this video, we're going to talk about not hanging your hat on SEO. All right, so let's talk about this. SEO, very important topic, very important for your business. Definitely something that if you have a website, you should have a website. If you have a website, you need to be aware of. I talked about it in a previous video. Definitely using SEO as a means of gaining more traffic to your website is a very good strategy. However, it's not a strategy that you need to solely be using for your business. I've run into this a few times where SEO apparently has become the king of the internet somehow and marketing, and it's just simply not the case. SEO is one small piece of a very large picture, and if you're just focused on SEO, what you miss is all of the other implications of internet marketing, all of the social, all of the, basic interactions that you can have on a lot of different channels outside of your website. And, that can be kind of destructive to your business model, because what we tend to do is we find something that works. This is how business owners work. We find something that works and we exploit it until it's dead. We beat it into the ground to try to make as much money as we possibly can out of that one thing. The problem is we end up building an entire structure around something that we basically have one leg to stand on then. And when that leg gets cut out from underneath you, your business fails. And so this is something that I've seen a lot of, and it's something that needs to be addressed because it's an issue. You need to build a very varietal mix of how, you can have SEO, social, email marketing. You can have a lot of things going on, and they all need to be very strong. And this idea of micro content, which I'm going to talk about in another video, is very important in that realm. So I don't think you should not necessarily look at SEO as a strategy. You shouldn't look at it as the only strategy. So, how does this play out in the bigger picture? If you don't have, let's say you don't have, and I've seen this happen, so this is important. If you don't have a really strong social presence, if you don't have a really strong newsletter, maybe, or email marketing, or you don't have a really strong, maybe forums. I know they're kind of antiquated now, but some industries they still play very big for. If you don't use the forums, industry-specific forums out there, and get your brand built, and it's really a lot of it is about building your brand. If you don't do that work, and really you're only looking at SEO, if Google decides tomorrow that your search terms are irrelevant, now they might not do that, and that it can be very tricky. But think about how this would work as a business owner. You're hanging everything you own on Google, in this case, on search engines, in this case. You're building a very big business or a complex business on one principle of marketing, and that's a really silly thing to do. You need to spend time building your brand in various other places so that if one of them disappears, if your SEO value drops it to zero overnight in all of your pages, if your web developer makes a mistake, right? Think about all of the things that can happen that can drop your website off of Google. There's so many things. I cannot stress enough that building your brand is 100% more important than any type of SEO activity that you can do. So this video is really about that. I'm encouraging you to spend more time on your brand and less time focused on how Google is going to rank this page that I'm making. It won't matter. If your brand is built and it's strong and it's vibrant and it has a community based around it, it doesn't matter what Google thinks of your pages, because you're going to easily be able to drive every piece of traffic you want, every individual. You're going to be able to hit them on your newsletter, on your social presence, on your forums, wherever else you might have them. You're going to easily be able to drive them back into that page on your site. Google shouldn't be doing the heavy lifting for you. Your brand should be doing the heavy lifting. So make sure you go out, focus on brand building, stop spending so much time on SEO, which is not important, but it's not as important. Not now. Nowadays, there are many other things that are too important for you to spend all of your time focusing on something like that. Now, if your organization is very large, that's awesome. You've afforded yourself the opportunity to spend time and maybe some valuable resources in that arena. I don't think you should turn your back on SEO. I just don't think that you should be only looking at SEO. So that's how I feel about it. That's something that, you know, I'm open to discussion on this, and you know, maybe you can prove me wrong. Maybe, you know, there's somebody out there with some really great thoughts and comments on this, but I believe that a strong brand will outdo a strong search engine presence any day of the week, and I think that that's where you need to be. I'm Phil Corey, and I'm looking forward to your comments, and we'll see you next time.